Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to Crafting Dragonlance. That's right, we're doing Dragonlance, not Keys from the Golden Vault tonight, even though it's Monday, so get the hell out of here, patrons, or patron players. This is where I build, write, and prepare for next session of Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen, which I'm currently running for platinum level patrons of patreon.com/roguewatson. This is the crafting episode for session number 9, so I checked my notes real quick. And if you are a platinum level patron, then, as I mentioned, please do not watch this. I know I'm doing it Monday, but I just think it makes more sense to do it on Mondays. That way I have more time, because I was realizing that if I was waiting until Thursday to do the crafting, and then I have the episode, and then I literally ran the session later that Thursday, didn't necessarily give us a lot of time to actually go through feedback and discuss things, which is what I like to do. That's kind of the whole point of doing these crafting. As much as obviously I like to tell you all what my plans are, I also love to just brainstorm and get ideas from all of you and kind of implement that stuff. And I realized that having like half a day to do that was not enough. So I figured, all right, well, instead let's do only on the weeks that we're doing the patron games. I'll do crafting Dragonlance on Mondays, and we'll do Keys and Gold Vault on Thursday. I realized the key to a successful streaming schedule is to always switch things up and keep people on their toes. They're confused, don't know what's happening. But hopefully you'll bear with me on this one, and that kind of makes sense for you. For a campaign, we use Roll20. For streaming, I use OBS Studio. I guess it was all part of the opening. We are in the midst of the raided catacombs section. I really like the way we're able to divide up this whole section into kind of a part 1 and part 2. Part 1 was really fun with the arrival of the Knights of Solamnia and the return to Kalaman, and realizing that slowly that things were not as they should be, and kind of investigating everything, and then fighting and seeing this massacre, and it's just really well designed section that I didn't have to change too much about, honestly. I just think it just worked really, really well, so I was very pleased about it. And now we get to, weirdly, one of the very few the first dungeon crawl, I believe, of this entire campaign. We are going to kind of transition after this into a hex crawl chapter, kind of an adventuring chapter, which has a lot of like mini dungeons and things in it, which I'm looking forward to, although a lot of people who have run this campaign said it's kind of a bit much. And then, of course, we've got our ending sequences, which are a bunch of really cool dungeons / like lost cities stuff, which I'm really looking forward to. So this might be kind of a little transitionary period where they kind of go from the army stuff, which I did enjoy, but ultimately I think it's best served sparingly, I think, because I just D&D, even a Dragonlance D&D campaign, I still just love dungeon crawling and going off on these little adventures and stuff, and I think the story serves it pretty well. So they'll also learn, importantly, in this dungeon, and by the end of this dungeon, they need to basically get their main quest that serves for the rest of the campaign. Because up until now, they've basically just been reactionary. They've been responding to all of these threats, all of these they kind of have a villain in that it's like a whole army, this whole enemy force is the villain, but they haven't been able to do things necessarily to thwart the villain. They've just kind of been reacting and trying to stay alive, which I think worked pretty well in the lower levels. But here, there's going to be a linchpin at the end where they will kind of learn a bit about what the main quest is, and then to go and actually stop the bad guys from accomplishing that quest. So, this dungeon is not very big, and it is unfortunately very linear. As far as dungeons go, one thing I really like about dungeon crawls in general is that it gives the players a lot of freedom. It gives them the control to explore the spaces, assuming that, you know, the dungeon has some branching paths and whatnot. This one, with very specific exceptions, does not have any branching paths. It's literally like a giant snaking dungeon. I'm going to zoom out so you can see it. Kind of a S shape. I guess a backwards S, a 5 maybe? I don't know. And the villain, one of the villains, I guess, the Darth Vader of this campaign, Lord Soth, shout out to Soth, has Kool-Aid manned his way through the dungeon, which I think is hilarious, and literally busted through half the dungeon so that he can reach the final room, which is cool and appropriate and kind of answers the question of, why would there be like monsters and traps between the party and the objective if they're following a bad guy? Wouldn't the bad guy have set that stuff up? So I think that's actually a pretty clever way of explaining that. On the other hand, it creates a problem because I don't want the players to use those shortcuts because I want them to experience the dungeon. So there is a built-in mechanism for the second shortcut, which is from R3 to R7, which is the tunnel collapses. You'd think I'd have my notes ready to go, but I don't. At least in Roll20. I don't know if it's... Yeah, R3. First creature to pass 5 feet along the passage must make a DC 16 dex save as the south end of the path collapses, blocking the way to R7. On a successful save, the creature safely dodges back into R3, taking no damage, I guess. On a failed save, however, it takes 4d6 bludgeoning damage and is forced back into area R3. So it effectively is a trap that just completely blocks you. And then the one between R2 and R4 does not have anything. It just lets them do it. So what I'm going to do is instead, I'm going to say that the tunnel between R3 and R7 has already collapsed. So it'll still be there, but I added some rubble pieces, which I swear to God have been there since I've been doing Roll20 10 years ago. I think if you go back and look at my Shadowrun videos from 10 years ago, you will see this same fucking Roll20, the same rubble art asset. It served me well. It served me so well. And I'm using that to just preemptively block this tunnel. And then I'm going to move that passage of the trap up to this one. And then if the players try to use this passageway, then I will use the same rules for that. So a DC 16 dex save. That's why I've got this kind of here to block it. And I've also got the dynamic lighting ready. Oops, not the 4. To be able to put a little blockage thing right there. So they'll be forced back up into R2. So on the one hand, I feel a little bit bad about making that adjustment because the dungeon is already painfully linear. And like normally I would be like, oh yay, an opening that the players can, choose their path with. But if they skip these sections, again, it's just completely linear. They just kind of skip out on content, especially if they go from the beginning of R2 down to R4. There's a bunch of loot in R3 that they can grab. That would be a bummer if they missed that. So that's what I'm going to settle on for there. All right, so, which I think we've already experienced R1, actually last session. It kind of overlapped slightly with the end of the last session we had. I believe they actually made it down. I didn't show them this map yet, I think. But they made it down the stairs, and I had explained this room to them, and they actually got the first of the Visions of Flame. Pax, was it your fault pushing into doing Dragonlance and crafting streams, even you said no time for it? Sorry. Well, guess what, the Pax? I didn't make time for it. Instead, I just replaced... I replaced my usual crafting stream, but that's okay, because I think we just end up dropping This Week in D&D streams, so we still do the 2-a-week craftings, but it's just on the weeks where I do the patron game, I do a crafting Dragonlance for one of them, and I think that's working out pretty well so far. I really like, and honestly, I love having a crafting stream for these. I've mentioned before, as much as you all like to have them for my point of view, I like to have them for all of your point of views, and I think it really helps for me to, even if sometimes I'm just talking out loud and kind of building ideas that way, but honestly, and anybody can go back and watch those crafting, and if you watch the live chat, I straight up get a lot of great ideas from the live chat that I absolutely implement into my games. So R1, so the whole time they're in here, they are getting these Visions of Flame, which they're learning Soth's backstory, which is kind of nifty. And then Soth kind of has his cinematic moment at the end where he, I think it mentions he's not even supposed to be there. He's like, has just left. But I kind of want to pull the like video game cutscene thing where the players walk in. Which, by the way, I'm going to totally start doing that in all my D&D games, because that's something that bugs me, is like, as soon as the door opens, you have to kind of trigger the cutscene, because that's when people see things. I'm just going to forcibly move everybody into the room, because like fucking Baldur's Gate does that. Like so many video games do that, where like part of the cutscene is you see the party walking into the boss room, because that always bugged me about playing D&D in years past. But I'm going to let Lord Soth be part of this actual cutscene and awakening Knight Sarlamir and doing that before he fucks off completely, because I think they deserve to see a taste of Darth Vader before he leaves. I've been really enjoying it, yes. This has been a great one, and I'm so glad I'm running it for patrons. Not that taking anything from my Friday group, but the patrons do such a fun job with role playing this world, and a lot of them really know and are into Dragonlance. Mike, our most recent patron, he's a super big Dragonlance fan. He was just fucking giddy over the teases of Lord Soth in this one, so that's always a fun treat as well. So each of these rooms has the visions of flame. I also liked the idea, and I don't remember if somebody gave me this idea, I think they did, where in all of the visions of flame, not only do they see Soth's backstory, but then everybody rolls kind of a d20, and then the highest person, the flame, also shows a scene of theirs, and that just allows the party an open-ended role-playing opportunity where they can just talk about a memory that the visions of flame would be showcasing. And I think that if they ever, I would probably just take out somebody who's already done it, so that way we can make sure to try to hit everybody, but I don't know if we will, because we've only got, I don't remember if it happens in R5 and R6 or not. I have to look back at my notes about that. R2, and they already got the flame vision in R1, which is actually, I believe, Quarrels, and he's actually not going to be here for this session, so we should be able to keep all 5 of these characters. In R2, there's just enemies, which are a pair of wraiths. Now, this says if any of the bodies are disturbed, then the 2 wraiths that look like Knights of Solamnia emerge from the crypts and attack. The wraiths vanish if a character returns any stolen goods and makes an earnest apology. That's cute, but I kind of want to just throw the wraiths at the party anyway. Just because there's not a lot of combat in here to soften them up. Now, we did just come from a pretty big battle, but if you look, the party's actually doing pretty well because Seer, in our last session, cast that freaking spell, Beacon of something. Was it a 3rd level spell? Yeah, I think, or was it Aura of Vitality? I think that's what it was. An aura radiates from you in a 30-foot emanation. When you create the aura and at the start of each of your turns while it persists, you can restore 2d6 hit points to one creature in it. Which, he argued, and I think I would agree with that, if combat's over, it still persists for, I would assume, a minute. How does it not fucking say on this? God. I can't believe it doesn't say on this thing. Okay. I think it persists for a minute. So you could presume, like, okay, if we've done 2 or 3 rounds of combat, that means it persists for another, like, 7 uses or something. So you could restore that many hit points. So that's why, if you're looking at their hit point, because they got pretty beat up by that last fight, but with 1 3rd level spell, they were actually topped up pretty well, which is impressive. So I think they're actually doing really well in terms of their stats. They did not get a chance to short rest, which unfortunately, they are under a time constraint. Normally, I'd love to let them short rest, obviously, if they're in the middle of, if you consider, like, the upstairs castle to be kind of one mini dungeon where they had 2 big battles, and now this one down here, normally it'd be a good chance to short rest, but unfortunately, they actually are under a time constraint, so they didn't get a chance to do that. But I think everybody's still doing pretty good, and obviously, because we have a rotational party, we have somebody like Elias who's going to come in here, assuming he can make it. And he's a full-ass, he's got his full-ass wizardness going on. So, I think we need to soften them up a little bit, because they're all level 5, they're doing fine. So I think I'm just going to throw 2 wraiths at the party. For Shadows now, Wraiths. No, the Wraiths are more powerful than Shadows. Yes, although they don't have the Strength Drain thing, which we all know is kind of a nasty bit from the Shadows. They do have the hit point maximum decrease, which is pretty nuts, especially for softening up party members. And yeah, if they do hit you, it can be fucking nasty. Did I actually edit that, or is that true about the Wraith, that it's... Doesn't say it kills you if you're hit... I mean, assuming your hit point maximum is decreased by the full thing, you're deadsies. Let's see if the Wraiths actually got changed. I don't remember... I think I did replace them with the 2024 Wraiths. I've been doing that for the most part in this campaign. I've been changing to the 2024 versions. AC's the same, hit points the same. Sunlight sensitivity is the same, incorporeal movement. Life drain is a +6 to hit, 48 +3 necrotic damage. So it's a con save to have your hit point reduced to So you get hit normally, and then you get to make a con save or have your hit point reduced. They got rid of a lot of those in the 2024 edition. So a lot of things that also required a con save on top of the attack, they got rid of that and just said, nope, that's just part of the attack. Which does make the monsters more powerful and speeds up combat, which is nice because you don't have to worry about the player having to make another thing after they get hit. The reduction lasts till the target finishes. The long rest target dies. Effect reduces hit points back. It didn't say that in this one, but I think that's assumed. And also, all the reductions do last till the finish a long rest. So yeah, life drain could be very nasty if they get hit by it because it does just automatically reduce your hit points by an amount equal to the damage taken. That's pretty brutal. This could actually be a really nasty fight. They also have damage resistance to acid, bludgeoning, cold, fire, piercing, and slashing. Ooh, is that the same? More magic weapon stuff? That's... oh, shit. They have like twice the hit points then. Yeah. That's pretty different, right? So instead, which that's also something they got rid of. So damages in the original one was acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder, and then bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks not made with silvered weapons. So if you did not use a magic weapon, they would have resistance. But guess what? This guy doesn't. The new one doesn't give a shit if you have a magic weapon. Still resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Whoa. Also acid, cold, and fire. Whoa. No, I'm hesitating on my on my do I auto attack them with these rates. They're both CR5. That's pretty nasty. None of them have... I mean, Jesus. Well, the magic weapon thing doesn't matter anyway. It's a very martial-focused party. Seer could use... Seer could still do the turn undead thing. Or no, did they use all of those uses? Because they didn't short rest. I was thinking that like the turn undead would be super useful here, but I think you might be out of them. Yep, all out of channel divinities. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Do you have anything else that's against... do you have any radiant damage? I don't think, because Seer's a fucking pacifist. Oof. Even though from Light Domain gives her freaking spells like Fireball and Scorching Ray. I wonder if the player would be like, oh, they're undead. Like, you can be a pacifist and still kill undead. I mean, yeah, undead are supposed to be scary. I get it. I'm just trying to see how well this party would stack up against them. Because 3 of them are marshals, and that's a lot of their DPS, is multi-attack marshals. And all those guys are doing half damage right now to these wraiths. Only ones that are going to do full damage is if Seer... again, if the player thinks to use offensive abilities against undead. Although even then, if she uses Fireball or Scorching Ray, he's still resistant to fire. Fuck. God, the only thing you're not resistant to, what is it? Force and Radiant? So you're immune to Necrotic and Poison. What a pain in the ass monster to fight. They're also immune to most conditions. So Elias's magic missiles would be pretty good here. Ice Knife, because cold. Yeah, cold resistance. Man. Oh, Psychic. Psychic would do full damage also. Oof. That could be brutal. Now, they only attack once. But, God, if they hit, it is nasty. Also can make specters if people die around them. Yeah, I know. I think 3rd edition had... I guess they didn't have permanent level drain, but I know they had level draining abilities, and that was... I remember playing Neverwinter Nights and fighting against, like, mummies and stuff, and that being just horrendous with the level drains. Yeah, man, the rates are nasty. Just because you could almost consider them to have twice as many hit points with that resistance. Okay, so the original story says that they only spawn if any of the bodies are disturbed. But you could argue one of the bodies is already disturbed because it looks like on the map, yeah, Lord Soth smashed through the catacombs wall to venture directly toward area R7. So if anything, Soth probably disturbed the damn spirits. Can Wraith speak? Yeah, common plus 2 other languages. Hmm. Could almost be a... I could make it into a role-playing thing. My hesitation is there's just not a lot of combat here. So we're already kind of doing a lot of role-playing stuff with the Visions of Flame. So I really kind of want to just do a battle here. Even though we did a lot of battles last session, but that was last session. And we really, I mean, the Wraiths are basically the only fight before the boss, unless they decide to fight these horses, which I'm thinking about making. I'm going to try to make these, give Khazra, because she's the horse lady now, the chance to subdue these horses and get the magic item from them. But I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about these two. I could also replace 1 or 2 Wraiths with Spectres, which are kind of the more standard fight, ghostly fights. Maybe I could replace 1 Wraith with a couple Spectres. Versus 2, because, man, I mean, if a Wraith is a CR5, doesn't that technically mean a single Wraith is a solid fight for a full level 5 party? Which, that seems bullshit to me, but given the action economy alone, would just devastate the Wraith. Yeah. Because Wraith spawns Spectres, yeah. Wraith target a humanoid corpse. Has been dead for no longer than 1 minute, which is not going to be true of any of these bodies, but maybe it's got Spectres for some reason. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe, now that I'm looking at these Wraiths going, okay, this might be too nasty. Is it Spectre or Spector? Spectre. I don't think the Spectres got changed too much. Talk about both of my D&D sessions going ghosts right now. Yeah, and they're like mini Spectres, mini Wraiths when it comes to the hit point max reduction thing. So that's the other change. The same thing as the... Actually, no, they got nerfed. They only do 2d6 necrotic damage, not 3d6. So they got interestingly a pretty solid nerf. But they still have the Wraiths resistance built in. And don't give a shit if people have magic weapons, although again, my crew doesn't anyway, because it's Dragonlance. Yeah, that might be better. Just some weaker... I think maybe 1 Wraith and like 2 or 3 Spectres, I think will be a little better. It's interesting though. It's, yeah, 2d6. But now no longer... Again, they just auto get that hit point max reduction. Which means you cannot fully heal until you're done with this dungeon. Alright, Mr. Spectre. Inspector. Yeah, action economy is always a thing, right? I think it's going to be more fun for everybody involved if it's just additional Spectres versus just 2 Wraiths. Just tanking a lot of damage, and then every once in a while they try to hit. But if they don't hit, it just then goes through a lot of damage. Trying to get used to the new sheets also, which I think actually look pretty good until you get to somebody with a lot of spells and abilities, then it looks kind of messy. Yeah, don't whisper to GM. If we just click it, it works well. Wow, I rolled the same thing for both. Fantastic. I rolled a 2. What the hell? It factors in their -5 strength? I'm glad I tested this. Oh, no, you didn't. You should not be factoring that in. What is happening here? It's saying it's factoring in the -5 strength, the +4 proficiency, and a +5 custom bonus. What are you doing? With what? Actually, never mind. That does work out. That math does work. They just did it in a really stupid fucking way. Is that the only way Roll20 can compensate? Because it automatically pulls the strength. So they have to give them a modifier to counteract the strength modifier, and then just plug in the... That's so fucking stupid. But that does check out, because they should end up with a +4 at the end. So if you... That +5 custom, I guess, takes away the -5 strength. Fucking dumb. Alright, but that does work out. I rolled a 2, and they end up with a 6, and it's a +4 to hit. So yeah, that works. Yeah, custom bonus. I see, I see. It is upsetting if you click details and you see all those modifiers. Like, what is going on? Man, I cannot hit with these guys right now. Yeah, but I think that is going to work better. Don't think I like the art as much as the other Spectres. Oh well. I do like that we got all new art though. So... Oh, do I not have my... You know what? I don't think I... Oh, I didn't need a token fade. Shoot. I don't think I set up my rollable fucking macro table with this campaign, did I? I did it with keys. Man. What an idiot. Alright, I'll do it the old-fashioned way. Boy, those are some healthy Spectres. 30 hit points and 25 hit points. Robust, one might say. The player sheets are rather manually put in the old sheet than use the new ones. Yeah. I feel like... I don't know. Well, I guess I can't have much an opinion because I'm not playing a player character and using those sheets. I like them making it nicer, and the concept of having like checkboxes and sliders to like apply things, having things automatically in there, but the way it's executed right now definitely feels like we're struggling more than we should, which is too bad. All right, so I think we agreed on having one Wraith and maybe for now 2 Spectres. Maybe we could even spawn more if we need to. In fact, we'll put the... And we'll do it like that. Try and get the party in here once they start looking at the thing. Basically, I'll probably mark it once they get to this middle section. I'll probably have the Wraith come... the Wraith rise out and say defilers and all this stuff, and then start combat. And then maybe if they try to use... I could leave it up to the influence action, because it does mention in here that they only attack if they steal shit, and then they vanish if a character returns any stolen goods. So, in my case, I could just say you could make an influence check to try and just say, hey, we're trying to stop the defiler one. You know, whatever they want to say. The target is definitely going to be hostile, though, which I believe means they have disadvantage. Oh, maybe I need to look under hostile. Defined in this glossary. Perfect. Let's jump around all the terms I need. Hostile attitude. A hostile creature views you unfavorably. You have disadvantage on any ability checks to influence a hostile creature. Yep. So I would totally let somebody use an influence action, although they would have disadvantage. And then I don't know what the DC equal to 15, or the DM chooses the check, which has a default DC. I know we talked about that, Sylvan, equal to 15, or the monster's intelligence check. They're level 5. I probably like the 15 here. The other thing you could do is make it a contested check, which is weird that it looks at the monster's intelligence score as the contest for convincing them. You'd think they'd use wisdom or even charisma. So it almost feels like I should make an intelligence check as a counter. Because I feel like contested is more interesting than a default DC. I guess that does speed things up slightly. Otherwise, yeah, I think a DC 15 charisma check at disadvantage, though, because they're hostile, I would allow them to potentially end the fight like that even. Which could be huge for them, because that could be a nasty fight. If they don't detect undead or see them coming, I would definitely surprise them. I don't think I would have these creatures be hiding necessarily. Although, so that's a weird thing. Hidden is a different thing. Like the invisible condition versus surprising the enemy. Although, I guess you're not necessarily invisible to surprise them. These guys don't really have stealth as a skill. So I don't know if they would necessarily be hiding. In terms of hiding would give you advantage on the attack. But if you're just looking at the surprise rules, which I'm getting to, then the only thing it affects, if I'm reading this correctly, is just that the party would have disadvantage on initiative roll. But then if it's like the enemy's turn, I don't think I necessarily get advantage on them unless I was actively hiding. Which I don't necessarily think these ghosts actually would do that. So probably just do the surprise. Again, there's no surprise round or whatever you want to call it. From the previous edition, that was a big change for 2024. Instead, it's just disadvantage on the party that is surprised on initiative rolls. So yeah, we'll do a fight there. I think we'll replace one Wraith with 2 Spectres. I think that'll make it for a better fight. Otherwise, I believe that's all that's in R2. And then, like I said, we'll move the collapsing tunnel into here, which I think I would let them make a check. I think it says there's a check you can make in the other one. Or is it under R3? Yeah, character with the Stone Cunning trait, which would be any dwarves, I guess. Or who? So I guess Stone Cunning you would automatically tell, which is kind of nifty. Although the player would have to come up with that, I think, and remind me. Or who succeeds on DC 14 perception or survival check. Can tell the destruction occurred recently in the narrow passage is dangerously unstable. So that gives them kind of a hint for that. So R3 has some loot. Tomb of Vaunted Steel. Next scene from There's a Fire section plays out. The tombs commemorate honored Solamnic weaponsmiths. Their burial places are sealed behind iron bars, which there's no way to open, so you just kind of have to break them open, I think. Weirdly, there's no rules about, like, lifting them or anything. It's just that they're medium objects with AC 19, 20 hit points, and immune to poison and psychic damage. I feel like you could almost just handwave that. Like, okay, eventually the party would break through. Like, there's no, like, why not? Do we want to sit here and roll a bunch of attack rolls? It's not like there's monsters going to hear them and care or anything. The players, I guess, don't know that technically. And they may urge themselves on with wanting to hurry up, but that's technically it. You just see this iron bars and you're going to kind of break them open at some point. AC 19's a slight pain in the ass, I guess, but otherwise they're not even there's no damage threshold on these either. So you can just do any damage, and once you get to 20, they're destroyed. So there's a north tomb and a south tomb. The north one contains a berserker axe, and the south one just contains a iron amulet shaped like a smith's hammer. A cleric of Reorix or a character that succeeds on DC 14 religion check recognized as holy symbol of Reorix. Guess what? We have a fucking cleric of Reorix. So I was like, shit, I should do something really cool with that one. We could also talk about the berserker axe because it's obviously a crazy weapon. So they no longer, in the 2024 rules, have the cleric equivalent of the Wand of the War Mage, which I believe I gave to Alaric in our Empire of the Ghouls campaign, which I forget what it's called. I want to say Amulet of the Devout or something like that. And it gave them, I believe it's the same as the Wand of the War Mage. They get +1 to bonus attack spells, and I think spell save DCs, and I believe they got 1 extra free use of Channel Divinity, like per day. That did not make the cut in the 2024 book. I believe it was added in like Tasha's or something, and it is straight up not available in the 2024 book, which is, I thought, very interesting, because I was like, all right, well, what is the cleric equivalent? Because Seer is a pacifist, so it would be cool to give her something that just empowers her spell casting, but isn't just a +1 bonus to spell attack rolls, because she's not actually ever making spell attack rolls, if that makes sense. I guess I could look at like an Eun Stone or something. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. But I think I need to replace this with some kind of cool ass thing. And I could even have the player like feel like a pull to that southern tomb as a way of like saying like, hey, this is something that you're gonna want. Whip out the Dungeon Master's Guide. I think the Berserker Axe is the same, but we can compare. Berserker Axe. Oh, you know what? I don't have the original one in front of me. Or actually, this one should be the original one. This is all, yeah, the one in here should be 2014. That's right. Okay, so we can compare. This is the new and this is the old. The old one, it's a +1 to attack and damage rolls, and your hit point max increases by 1 for each level you have attained, which is pretty nice. However, the axe is cursed, and basically you have to only attack with it. And whenever a hostile creature damages you while the axe is in your possession, you must succeed on DC 15 Wiz Save or go Berserk. While Berserk, which obviously is going to happen all the time. Like, creatures are always going to be attacking you, and every time you get hit, you have to succeed on a DC 15 Wiz Save. So you got a pretty good chance of going Berserk every combat. And while Berserk, you must use your action each round to attack the creature nearest you with the axe. It also says you even use those extra attacks moving to attack the next nearest creature after you fell your current target. If you have multiple targets, you attack one at random. You are Berserk until you start your turn with no creatures within 60 feet of you. That is insane. I mean, that renders you just a huge problem on that. You basically become the Hulk, where it's like, you're strong, but you are a liability every time we go into combat. Because again, the odds of you succeeding on a DC 15 Wiz save for a lot of, warriors not necessarily have the best Wiz is crazy, and it does not stop. It literally has no time. It's not like you get to keep making that wisdom save. You literally, once you fail, you are Berserk until either you die or there's nobody within 60 feet of you. Is crazy. I like the idea of this axe, but it is crazy unbalanced using those rules. And it's not worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Because it's only a +1/+1 with a slight hit point max buff. But then this horrifying, like, other effect on here. Like this, you could build a whole character around this, I guess, which would be interesting. It's like, I've got this curse, but like, I think most people be like, no, I need to get this fucking curse off me because I'm a huge liability to my team. Everybody hates me. The new one, let's see if they changed anything. When a creature damages with weapons in your possession, you must get a DC 15 Wiz save or go Berserk. Berserk ends when you start your turn and there are no creatures within 60 feet of you that you can see or hear. The other option is you have somebody cast like, I guess blindness or something. Like I guess there's ways to get around it, but you're still costing your party like spell slots and shit. Because like you could cast some like maybe hypnotic pattern might work. It's like, are you seeing or hearing people? But again, you're costing your party like a decent spell. Well, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Their cursed items are not supposed to be good. That's why they're cursed. I do get that. That's fair. I think it's fun if you have cursed items that have some fun. I know my wife would probably love this item. In fact, I was thinking about giving it to her at some point in this campaign because she's playing a fucking fighter wielding an axe. But I think most people just try to get rid of it. Multiple, yeah. Each turns you move close to you get close enough to the creature. Weapon you enter. If you're unable to get close enough to the creature to attack it with the weapon, your turn ends after you've used up all your available movement. If the creature dies or can only be seen or heard by you, the next nearest creature you can see or hear becomes your new target. Yeah. The only thing I wish it added is that you can constantly be making that whiz save to regain your senses, I guess. I wish they added that in there. Otherwise, you literally just force your teammates to all flee from you. But if even one person doesn't flee, and like that person catches up to them, like it just kind of starts the whole thing over again. So it's pretty nasty. I mean, yeah, on the one hand, this is such a low magic campaign. Literally, I don't think a single member of my party has a magic weapon, folks. They're level 5. Very low magic campaign. It is Dragonlance. And the fact that, like, the first fucking magic weapon they see is a cursed Berserker Axe is kind of mean. I don't know. Feels a little much to me. Now, they do, I believe, just after this find a +1 longsword, to be fair. In the same area. The weapons to the west are the armaments of heroic Solomonic knights and their allies. Which is funny because you'd think that these things would be swapped. You'd think the treasure would be at the first room, and the next room would have the wraiths and ghosts to attack the party for taking the treasure. Instead, they're all like, you've disturbed our stuff. And then you defeat the ghost, and you're like, all right, well, now we can help ourselves with your stuff. The characters can find a +1 longsword, a mithril breastplate, and a Cognesti forest shroud, which is a unique item that gives you advantage on stealth checks, as well as giving you a one-use Misty Step. Once per day. Also advantage on next attack roll before you make it the end of the turn if you activate it. So kind of a Cloak of the Mountebank, I guess, in a way. But very cool. Very, very cool. Feeling Rowan would love that shit. Mithril Breastplate, I think is a lot less cool. Just doesn't have the disadvantage on stealth if you're wearing it. Although pretty cool for a low magic world, I guess. And then a +1 longsword is, of course, pretty spiff for this party, especially. I don't think anybody has a single magic weapon, honestly. I can't think of anybody. I's got the magic shield. Now, some people have, like, they start with, like, a common level magic item. Like, I think Rowan has, like, an item that lets them cast, like, Sending or something, a sword, which is just, like, a cantrip. But I don't think anybody even has, like, a +1 weapon, but I may be wrong about that. So, I'm torn on the Berserker Axe. We could still do it. But, man, is it a nasty side effect. And then I don't know if you can actually get rid of curses. Like, how common it is to, like, you know, head up somebody for a remove curse spell or something. I don't know if they'd be able to do that anytime soon. But what I need to do is figure out a good... Because again, if I want to adhere to the 2024 rules as close as possible, that Amulet of Devout is no longer an item. So what is the equivalent of a cool cleric item, or something I can flavor as a cleric item that could be like the Reorx's thing here, is what I'm trying to figure out. As I sift through my book. Because I don't think a Wand of the War Mage is going to work for that character. Because again, she's a pacifist. I guess I could maybe even do armor. Because she's already... Because I kind of made their holy symbol like part of their prelude backstory. So it'd kind of feel weird to just give them an upgrade to that. Because I feel like their holy symbol, like the character even made that holy symbol like their thing. So I don't know if I just want to use another amulet, but maybe like armor that was forged by reorcs or something cool. I guess you'd reflavor any of these rings or something. Even just like a ring of protection, you could reflavor that as having reorcs' band over it or something. Just a +1 bonus to armor class and saving throws, which is pretty good. Again, especially for a low magic world, all these, it makes all the items that much cooler. Robe of Eyes, Robe of Colors, Robe of Stars. What are the rarity levels working with? Berserker Axe is a rare item. Again, the other one's not anything, it's the holy symbol. So I'm kind of coming up with a whole new one. I shouldn't be really worried about that. I mean, it's Dragonlance is low magic, but like party is so behind the curve. Robe of items, Robe of the Archmagi. Rod of Absorption. Yeah, they absorb spells. That's pretty powerful. Rod of Alertness. That's defensive abilities. It's also very rare. Detect evil and good, detect magic, detect poison and disease, and see invisibility, and give a protective aura. That is what Seer would probably like to do. That's the Rod of Alertness. The bright light, you and your allies get a +1 bonus to armor class at saving throws to the sense location of any invisible creatures. Wait, so you can just cast those 4 spells at will. That's pretty nuts. A gem that has removed curse. I guess you could do a Rod of the Pact Keeper, but for clerics. Because that's the one that gives you a bonus to spell attack rolls and to saving throw DCs. That one also says you regain 1 spell slot as a magic action while holding the rod once per long rest. Which is funny because Warlock's getting back on a short rest anyway. Yeah, what do we think about this? I mean, the only thing that scares me is it's a very rare item. It's a Rod of Alertness. You could shape it like a hammer. Like Reorc's hammer. While holding the rod, you have advantage on perception checks and on initiative rolls. You can cast the following spells from it. Detect evil and good, detect magic, detect poison and disease, and see invisibility. Those are all, I believe, level 1 and level... I think see invisibility is level 2 spell. And you have a once per day, you can take an action to plant the rod in the ground. The rod's head sheds bright light in a 60-foot radius and dim light for additional 60 feet. While in the bright light, so a 60-foot radius, you and your allies gain a +1 bonus to AC and saving throws. Such a neat, like, video gamey tactical thing to use, too. It's like, I've created this zone of buffs. That just seems like a fun item. And would give that player something to do and would go with their, like, protection aspect. But I could do a cleric-flavored version of Rod of the Pact Keeper. I could even give them the you regain 1 spell slot as a magic action, too. I don't think that'd be too unbalancing. Or just keep the Amulet of Devout from Tasha's and just say, fuck it. You'll get the same item Alaric got in our Empire game. I think it's the same item. I would do Magic Shield, but literally the only one of the few items they already have is a Magic Shield. Shield, shield, shield. Yeah, necklace would be... The Necklace of Prayer Beads is interesting, but it's also essentially a bunch of finite uses. Staff wouldn't really make much sense for Rorks. Well, I guess I could always reskin something as needed. Could just be a Stone of Good Luck. Just flavor that as a reorcs thing. Gain a +1 bonus to ability checks and saving throws. It's only uncommon. It's a lot less powerful. Yeah, the remove curse thing is weird. It does seem sort of easy to get curses removed in this universe. Like, they make cursed items really nasty and stuff, but then it's like, you just go to town and pay up for a 3rd level spell. Oh, I'm liking that rod spell. I don't think a wand would necessarily fit it. What about those stones that I was looking at earlier? Or just something like a ring of protection, or whatever that one I just said that gives you Stone of Good Luck. Let's do Pearl of Power. Could also be good. Would be Cleric could take advantage of that. Take a magic action to regain 1 spell slot of level 3 or lower. So just a 1 use of restoring a spell would be a good one to have. A lot of poor items this party needs. Yeah, Necklace of Prayer Beads. Bunch of really cool spells. 24 plus 2 magic beads. I don't know if that really fits reorcs. Armor would fit. I wonder what kind of armor Seer's using. Oh, it does? Oh, they recharge. I missed that part. Yeah, you're right. Interesting. My necklace has 1d4 plus 2 magic beads. So anywhere between 3 and 6. Determines the type of each bead in the necklace, or determines it randomly. Could be the Bless spell, a Cure Wound spell, a Greater Restoration, a Shining Smite, a Guardian of Faith, or Windwalk. The last 2 being very rare. So that just gives you additional uses of multiple spells. Yeah. Could be good. The first 3 would definitely be ones that the Cleric would use. I'm less familiar with the other spells on here. I assume Shining Smite is like one of the Paladin smites, and I don't know about the other 2. I know, I skim and then I move on. I'm like, I can't be bothered to read the whole thing, these kids today. I guess the big thing about armor is you can just make it, what is it, enspelled or ensorcelled or something? You can just put spells into stuff. There's the Ion stones. I don't know how to pronounce that. Ion Stone. Good name for a character. Take a magic action to toss it into the air. Have the 3 of them orbiting your head at the same time. Can people still grab them from you? Utilize action can seize and stone a number of Ion stones orbiting your head. No, it avoids contact with other creatures' objects, adjusting its orbit to avoid collisions and thwarting all attempts by other creatures to attack or snatch it. So it's just like equipping it, basically. They all have different abilities. Advantage on initiative and wisdom checks. Constitution increases by 2. Wisdom increases by 2. Yeah, just all the stats. God, some of these are legendary. Wow. You don't need to eat or drink. Great. How exciting. Eating or drinking is some of the most fun we can have, I think. Why would you take that away from me? Because it says you don't need to. You could still. I choose to. I don't need to eat or drink with this stone. But I choose to. Just give them a movable rod. Players always have fun with that. I think we're narrowing it down. Unless I see any armor. I guess any of the gems would make a lot of like so the Yunstones and like the Gem of Seeing, Gem of Brightness could all work for a reorcs thing. Yeah, Enspelled Armor. Bound to this armor is a spell. When the armor is created, it must belong to the Abjuration or Illusion School of Magic. The armor has 6 charges and regains 1d6 expended charges daily at dawn. Wearing the armor, you can expend 1 charge to cast its spell. So just kind of give it up to the DM to just put whatever spells you want on there, and that determines the rarity. Which you could do up to 3rd level, and it'd still be the armor be a rare level armor. Interesting, it can only do Abjuration or Illusion magic if it's attached to armor. So that could be an interesting option too, and gives me some freedom of just putting a single spell. Just give the character some free spells, I guess. 6 charges is a lot, but you don't necessarily get all of them. You only get 1d6 each day. What kind of armor is you're wearing? Yeah, the plus to stats is definitely great. Which Seer's already got 19 whiz. That's pretty good. Chain shirt, medium level armor. Could also just do, what is it, +1? Doesn't necessarily have to be a spell attached. I meant to talk about more in this dungeon, but I got caught up looking at all the first 2 rooms. How did this take the whole fucking time? Jeez. I know. I love looking at items. I've missed giving my players items. I guess just plus, yeah, armor. A +1 armor is considered rare. And that's it. It's just a +1 armor class. It's so lame. Alright, if armor is +1 and it's rare, what is a ring of protection then? Because if it's anything less than rare, I'm calling bullshit. Alright, ring of protection is rare. But a ring of protection also gives you a +1 to saving throws. So I think it's way better. Oh, the armor doesn't require attunement. Okay, fair enough. That is good, I guess. You're voting Necklace of Prayer Beads. Yeah, I'll have to look up what all the spells are, but that could be a good one. And flavor it's still like a reorc's necklace full of like cool spell effects and stuff. That would be nice though. I definitely want to make it a specific seer thing. But yeah, the other one is a Berserker Axe, which, man, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's cursed, if a player waits to attune to the item or short rest, do they know about the curse? I actually need to look that part up. Or is the curse supposed to be hidden until they first equip the item and use it? Because that would be nuts. I assume that's part of the challenge there. All right, real quick, R4. As they enter the area, the next scene of Visions of Fire plays out, and then 2 Warhorse skeletons manifest, and apparently are supposed to charge, although it says if a character is wearing the armor of a Solamnic Knight. I don't know why anybody would think to wear the armor of a Solamnic Knight to go down in here. Or succeeds on a DC 16 animal handling check, the skeletons stop, bow, and vanish, and the character gains a unique charm where they can actually summon a Warhorse, although I'd probably play around with that, because Khosrow's already got a horse, and maybe turn it into some kind of spell effect. The problem is, I'm trying to work out the timing of this event, because if you trigger this like a trap where these creatures spawn at the other end, and then like you have everybody roll for initiative and stuff, then they're just gonna be like, all right, we're in combat mode, and nobody's gonna think like, well, wait, let me use my animal handling to like stop these undead horses from charging us, right? Like, I just don't know if anybody would do that, and it's actually a really cool special effect if you do. So I'll try to figure out a way to maybe encourage the players to do that, but maybe not rolling initiative right away. And I'm tempted to not have them be skeletons, but just have them look like kind of ghostly horses, but dressed in the full Solemnic garb. And see if they pick up on that clue, because I think maybe having them not be skeletal, because it's, I don't know, I just figure that if I were doing this and I was a player, and a player next to me was like, well, I'm gonna set up my hand and be like, stop horses, I'm using my animal handling, I would be chuckling, be like, dude, these are ghost skeleton horses, this shit's not gonna work. And it turns out it does. Maybe that's part of the appeal, but I kind of would rather this not be a combat encounter, in other words, and actually be a cool moment where the party can talk their way out of it, unlike the ghost fight, where I would rather have that be a combat encounter. R5 is just the next scene of Visions of Fire. There's nothing in here. They can find the names. And then R6 is where they're supposed to meet with another ghost character who can explain who Knight Sarlamir is, who's the person who's actually entombed here, I guess, with honors. Yeah, was entombed a hero. She twisted the truth, reporting Sarlamir died, defending people from ravaged evil dragons. I'm tempted to just kind of replace this character with the ghost Liadra, because it's just fewer characters the party to keep up with, and that allows Liadra to kind of talk about Sarlamir a bit and what this place is, and also what Lord Soth is after. And then maybe Lord Soth does something like he points his weapon. What does he have? Like, yeah, cataclysmic fire or something. And she does some kind of cool protection thing around them and saves them for a moment. And then he huffs and walks away with it. I don't need to put a bunch of whites on here. He huffs with his army of soldiers. But in the meantime, he points to Knight Sarlamir to like finish them off while he leaves. And then the party has a big boss fight. And then Liadra will actually probably maybe follow Soth. I don't know. I have to work out the details of this final cutscene, but it needs to be a very important cutscene, a cool boss fight. And I do plan on, instead of using Knight Sarlamir's base stat block that he comes with, I plan on using the Death Knight Aspirant. But I do realize the Death Knight Aspirant is a CR11 giant-ass boss fight. So I may modify him slightly, mainly because I'd rather not also have him be alone. It'd be nice if Lord Soth left some of his undead white soldiers behind as well. So if I want to give this guy some minions, I probably need to reduce his HP a bit, and probably maybe turn off the Hellfire Orb. I don't know, I need to figure out something, because he's a little nuts as written, but we'll work on that. I wish I had more time, but we're already at an hour. You can see why I love having these having these crafting streams. They are so important. But definitely get with the comments here on YouTube or the discussions. Gosh, I realize we actually can't. You know, it's going to be the comments here on YouTube, because I can't have discussions. I'm not set up to actually having no players allowed, minus the patrons for the Discord channel at the moment. Yeah, so leave any comments and stuff here on YouTube, and I will be notified, and I will see them for that. But otherwise, I think that will do it for this crafting session. Thank you to everyone for joining me, and thank you, of course, to all the patrons who are helping make these streams happen. Shoutouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Brandon, Genocide, Roleplayer, Christopher, Big Nut, John, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lemmy Spuds, Wardy, Emo, C, Tom, the Dogs, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Sasha, John, Morbid Reaper, Jealous Guy, Zim, Jesse, Dante, Sarah, how about Demnix and Sean? And gold patrons, RPG Papercraft, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, The Lizard Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Scott, Rufus, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for support. I will see you on Thursday for Crafting the Golden Vault.